Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Lenz VO podcast. My name is Mike Lenz. I'm an entrepreneur and a full-time professional voice actor and audiobook narrator. My goal is to share with you stories from some of the most amazing and inspiring people from all areas of the voiceover industry to help you achieve your dream of becoming a professional voice actor. So please leave me a review over on iTunes and join us over on the web at mikelenzvopodcast.com to be notified of each episode when it comes out. Now, get ready to be inspired. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Mike Lenz VO podcast. Before we jump into the show, I want to share some great discounts from Voice123 and the LinkedIn Edge. In the show notes, I'll have a link for a 15% discount on a new Voice123 membership at the $395 level and up. I've had a tremendous success on Voice123 casting platform and have an affiliate partnership with them to provide this amazing discount to my podcast listeners. So check the show notes for the special discount link. And I've said many times how important social media marketing is to finding success in the VO industry. That's why I also have an affiliate partnership with my good friend Tracy Lindley to provide a $50 discount on her LinkedIn Edge course. Now, I've been following Tracy's LinkedIn plan for years, and it has helped me connect with clients who hire me. It's a great course, so take advantage of this discount by clicking on the link in the show notes that will take you to an ordering page with the $50 discount already applied to the price. Both of these discounts can be found in the show notes, so check them out. On today's episode, my guest is Marisa Blake. Marisa is a Latina actor, voiceover artist, and musician. You can find her on screen in Netflix's Florida Man, DC's Swamp Thing, and Spectrum's original Long Slow Exhale. She has won multiple awards for her audiobook narrations, including the 2023 Audible's Best Of, and AudioFile's Best Audiobooks of the Year 2020, and an Earphones Award. Marisa was also recently nominated for a 2023 Audie Award for her work in Across 100 Mountains. She is currently the Spanish voice for Kohls in the U.S. and one of the regular Spanish voices for Sherwin Williams in the U.S., and recently did a bilingual campaign for Frito-Lay. Marisa voices everything from promos to e-learning, commercials to IVR, and even some video games and animations. She voices the promos for her local news station, and you can also find her performing with local bands behind the microphone, the cajon, or the drum kit. So, Marisa, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike.
So that was a mouthful. I mean, it's amazing how much you're doing out there in the world, not only in the VO world, but I love that you've got this wide range of experiences and expertise, not only on camera, but also in the audiobook world, in the voiceover world, and performing in a band. I mean, amazing, amazing. I love it. So I'm not exactly sure where we start, but I'd love to hear how your journey began, or how you ended up doing voiceover in particular, but all the other amazing things that you do.
Right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. As you know, I have been a Mike Lenz podcast listener for years. As far as getting into voiceover, I always am like, well, I started about 10 years ago, but my mom will say, no, it was before that. When my family moved to DC, I'm from the DC area, we got, scouted by a talent scout one day at a gas station. My brothers are both like beautiful men. We were all kids at that time, but I was about 13 years old. And so I was in a WNBA commercial. I went to the studio a few times to do some voiceover work, but I've always had a voice that I didn't sound like a 13-year-old girl. Like, my dad makes fun of me. He's always like, all the recordings I have when you were little is like, papi, I always had this kind of voice. So as a youth, probably from like 13 to 15, I did a little bit of screen acting and a little bit of voiceover, but as we both know, the rejection rate in this, that's what we do. We get told no every single day, many times a day, not to our face, but you just don't hear from people after you audition. So the being told no regularly, I feel like was not good for, little teenage Marisita. So about 10 years ago, my son's 12, so about 11-ish years ago, I just had a baby. I was lost. I was like, what am I doing? What do I want to do with my life? And at the time, I have a degree in elementary education. So I was a teacher for a few years. I have two older stepsons. I was raising them while doing that, and then ended up quitting that, trying to figure out the next thing. The next thing was a baby.
That happens.
And
Yep.
yeah, it happens. So I actually started working at an insurance office. This is what led me to sort of this next chapter in my life. It was when the Affordable Care Act was coming out. My boss at the insurance company wanted to hire teachers and nurses to be able to explain tough content, this whole new insurance. And people are like, wait, what? And how is it associated with my taxes? And that, it was really confusing for everybody. And so I ended up getting my insurance license, and I loved it. I loved um, just being able to help people chew on like what is going on and how can I get this $12 insurance plan, and and also like how does this look like, it was very complicated, and it still is. Insurance details can be complicated. um so uh so anyways, I did that for a few years, and then it started to go kind of seasonally, and I was making videos for them, for my company. And they were educational videos. They were e-learning. They were training videos. I didn't really know any of this at the time, but I was doing them in Spanish and in English, and we would put them up at the health center in town, and different health centers. So when people would be in the waiting room, they could kind of, get a little bit of education. So it was doing those videos that made me be like, oh, I kind of love being in front of the camera. That was kind of where it started. I was like, I love being in front of the camera. I forgot about this like part of myself. So I signed up for acting classes here in Asheville at the Actors Center. And it was great. It was about 11, 12 years ago. I was at the sense of identity, a new mom. I mean, I wasn't a new mom. I'd been a mom for about 10 years before that, but um, uh, just like trying to figure out my path. So I went there, and that the Actors Center of Asheville was like the one place I wasn't anybody's mom. I wasn't anybody's wife. Like nobody knew me from anything, and I just really felt like I could dive into this creative side of myself, which I loved. And I got an agent and started booking commercials, and then I started to be like, okay, what can I do as like a side hustle? Like that where I could do a side thing and like, but be ready to like go to Charlotte or Atlanta or wherever on at the drop of a hat, as screen acting is often like drop everything and come.
Right.
Um, so my whole life people are like, you have such a great voice. You have such a great voice. As we both know, it takes a little bit more than that. But so I started to look into voiceover, and I started listening to podcasts. Yours was one of them. And I loved the thing about this podcast was hearing everybody's intro, because it really taught me like, oh, there's no like one right way to do this.
There isn't. I tell you
Um,
all the time, everybody's path is different, which is amazing.
yes.
It's
Yeah.
great to hear.
Yeah. And the VO School podcast was another
Mm.
one that, just trying to understand the industry, because when I was doing it, number one, I was a kid, and it was very like this was your agent, and this and you go into the studio to do the audition. I mean, it was all different. And now it's like by the time I jumped in, there were home studios, and I'm married to an audio engineer, and so having somebody, I didn't even really start out in a closet. I started out in like a just a homemade, like we just basically blocked off my audition room for TV film. I made this like two-part like plywood and covered it, and just like I would open it up and bring my little microphone and my little desk and record auditions, and then like close it up and put it against I had this sort of makeshift, and then we made several different kinds of different the spaces grew as I became more of a professional. Um,
I mean, and it's okay. I've often said it doesn't matter what it looks like; it just matters how you sound. And if
yes.
you just make it work. Maria Pendolino, who was a guest, she's like, make it work. Just make it work wherever you're at. You can figure it out. I mean, my first 5 audiobooks were, I've always said, a three-sided poster board duct taped to the wall with Walmart foam on the inside of it, and it
Yep.
got me through 5 audiobooks. So,
Right.
we don't have to have this state-of-the-art equipment
Not at all.
necessarily. That should be
Yeah.
a goal ultimately, obviously, but you begin where you can, you know?
Yes. Yeah, and what makes sense in, my house, I'm like, I had 3 boys running around. I was like, it didn't make sense for me to be in my closet. I'm gonna hear everything upstairs. So like we turned our little laundry room, which is like in the ground,
Hmm.
into a workspace, which, it gets cold down here sometimes, but we make it work.
Yeah, it's okay. It's better than being hot. All those people that we see on social
Yes.
media posting in the summer with it's 97 degrees in my
Yep.
studio. I'm in the
Yeah.
basement as well, and I love it in the basement because it's cool in the summer. You can bring a little heater in, a ceramic
Oh, I
heater in the
do.
winter
Yeah.
and keep
Yep.
yourself warm in the winter. So, yeah, being in the basement's the way to go for sure. Get in the
Yes.
ground, definitely.
Yes. So I started reaching. I then dabbled in little voiceover projects. I still worked with the insurance office like three months out of the year during open enrollment, and just kind of tried to figure out. I signed up for pay to plays, and then it was really after doing that for a few years. I really was like, okay, I want to get serious here. Like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. So I drove Uber and I waited tables at night, so that I wanted to have that like sort of 9 to 5, or we'll say 9 to 3 while my kids were in school block, and then be a mom for a little while, cook everybody dinner, and then I would go out and work in the evenings, while I was just growing the business. And I spent, it was just there was one year where I was like, this is me trying not to curse. I'm like, screw it. Let's go. We're gonna,
Hmm.
we're gonna go. So I did a lot of direct marketing. Like every day was just writing, finding studios, writing emails, sending my demo, you know, all the, um, all the stuff.
Yeah, and the stuff that we don't that a lot of people don't pay attention to. And
Yeah.
I don't want to pass over too quickly that part about driving Uber, waiting tables, because o- often people will make a decision that they first they want to become voice actors, and second they believe that they will instantly have a very lucrative career, which for some people, not to
Mhm.
say that that will never happen. There are some people that can start and get success very quickly. But the probably the greater reality is that you do have to commit to doing some of the hard work and making the tough decisions to allow yourself to progress in the voiceover industry. And if that means working 2 or 3 jobs, if that means driving Uber, waiting tables, if that means not necessarily quitting your 9 to 5 job until you have a base of work, which will then mean you have to work a lot harder and a lot longer, earlier in the morning and later at night, and trying to raise a family and working a job. Those are the things that you have to do that some in some cases will become very quickly will dissuade people. And I think you both of us will know of people that we know who started in the voiceover industry and said, yeah, I still have my CDs that I recorded, or I still got my demo, but I haven't really sent it to anybody because I tried it for a couple of months and it didn't really work for me. And and they feel bad about it. Like they go from that initial high of excitement of, wow, this is something I can do, to all of a sudden it becomes, if they don't have that immediate success, it becomes a negative in their life. And then they start to kind of push it away and they don't want to really talk about it anymore. Whereas, you know, in my opinion, in my experience, um, you've got to you've got to be able to work in the margins and do what you need to do to make it work if it's something that you really, really want to do, which is why I always say, you got to get focused and find out if it's something you really love, because it's not necessarily going to be an easy journey. And I know you've experienced that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. You're so right about that. It's a lot, and I feel like something I kind of skipped over too was definitely training in the middle of that. I had a couple friends here in town who were doing voiceover work, and so sitting down with them, I ended up doing some great work with he was is it's a friend of our family here, and he was doing like the behind the scenes, more like the voice over production stuff. And so I sat down with him a lot of times and just like read scripts, and it's amazing the difference between you know, I just was like, oh yeah, I can do this. This is easy, but like really sitting down and like dissecting a script and, beating it really ways
Right.
when you're working with a coach, you're like, oh my God, how many more times do I have to do this? But then, you get to a point where, I still love to coach. I think it's important to keep your chops, and I was just talking with a friend of mine about this. I have a couple different accountabilities, but it's just like anytime I feel like I'm in a lull, I'm like, that's when it's kind of maybe a good time to like set up even though I'm a professional, I make my living this way. It's I enjoy like, let me sit down and have somebody kind of walk me through this, you know what I mean? And really kind of push me a little bit to get out of my comfort zone. And that usually helps.
Having that outside objective observer come in who's a fellow professional and give you honest critique
Yep.
is so important because, as you think about anybody in any level, especially when we think about sports analogies, the best in the world have coaches. So to say that I don't need a coach anymore doesn't make any sense. I
Right.
mean, I always want to be working with somebody and getting input from multiple people who are going to be able to help you get better because you're going to get to a point in your career where it is tweaks, right? It's small tweaks here and there. It's little things that maybe little habit you might have fallen back into or something that you didn't realize that all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute. If I look at it from this perspective, I can give a much more authentic read. So those are the things that are always going to be valuable. So having accountability partners, having coaches that you can work with, working with different coaches over the years is important. Just having one coach throughout your whole career probably doesn't make a lot of sense. You want to get different perspectives from different people from the industry. So yeah, that coaching piece is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's for folks who are just starting out, and I have a place on my website with some, just sort of one of the things, the first thing I say is like get training. And I
Mm-hmm.
do always suggest like group classes because you can learn a lot from other people, whether it's like they do a read and you're like, wow, that was really good. Or like, or they ask a question that like, you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. So I always feel like when you're first starting out, number one, it's more affordable to be in a group class. And you learn a lot from other people. And now with Zoom, there's so many options, it's like you don't have to be in person. There's a lot of online training programs out there. And I know you have people that say this. I'm like, be wary of people that are like, come to this class and you'll
Mm-hmm.
make millions in 6 weeks, but like just going to a place where they're like, come work some scripts. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Work some scripts, get some critiques, or learn about a genre. Like, people ask me about audiobooks all the time. I love audiobooks. Like, how do I get into it? And I'm listening is a great start, and then once you have a little bit of money, like go to an audiobook training, go to a class. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's very important, and um, the group classes are great because, like you said, they're incredibly affordable. And when you are looking for coaches, the reach out to people that who are further along in the industry because yeah, there are some unscrupulous people out there, unfortunately, and it's true in any industry, but there are also amazing coaches in the voiceover industry. So
Hmm.
reach out to me, reach out to Marisa, and just ask us because, we'll are more than happy to share people that we know of who we've used or we know of who are professionals and they're out there and they're really, really good. But the group classes is a great idea for sure. Um, I'm interested in this segue. So you're down in North Carolina, you're in Asheville.
Yes.
But you're also doing on-camera work. Now, a lot of people think, oh, I've got to be in LA, I've got to be in New York. So, I
Atlanta.
mean, yeah, Atlanta, you're in not in necessarily any of those places. And yet you've been on some, fairly significant shows. And
Yeah.
so I guess my first question is, um, I know you said as when you were younger, that became interesting to you. As an adult, trying to juggle all those things, right? So you're working other jobs, you're trying to build a voiceover career, you're building a family. So at one point, did you say, as an adult, I want to explore this world of being on the screen? How did that happen? How'd you get back there?
Well, that started like a year or two before I started getting into voiceover. It was like I started going into the acting classes at here in town, and I got a after not too long, I signed with an agent who's in Charlotte.
Hmm.
So although not, I mean, a lot of commercials are filming in Charlotte, and that was sort of the majority of what I was doing at that time. Um, and prior to North Carolina's film, it was just controversial. We were in the South, controversial laws. There were some film. A portion of the Hunger Games was filmed in Asheville. So there was some film, and I'm hoping that it comes back, like Dawson's Creek filmed in Wilmington. So there are, and there are way more other shows, but like Swamp Thing filmed in Wilmington, at least a chunk of it. I don't know that all of it, but and then Florida Man, I went to Wilmington also to film that. So Atlanta, I'm only 3 hours from Atlanta, so that's not far. I'm 2 hours from Charlotte. I will go anywhere. I just recently signed with last year with right before the strike, signed with LA Management. And that's been a little bit slower, just I mean everything in that industry is it's figuring itself out right now. I think post pandemic, post strike,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
um so for me, the screen acting was always kind of number one, and I jumped into voiceover. Like I said, I wanted it to be kind of a side hustle. Um, and I really just kind of fell in love with it, and I fell in love with the business of it. With TV film, you're very much I feel like I'm less in control of the business. I have my agent, my manager, and they are the ones that they talk to casting talks, you know what I mean? I'm just like here like waiting for opportunities. And that my husband will tell you I'm not a very patient person. I am Latina. I am like so I'm a go-getter, and so I like to actively be working towards my goals. And as much as yes, going to class and training and working scripts with other actor friends is a great way to feed your soul, as far as like, putting food on the table, I felt like I needed something a little bit more consistent. And I'm so grateful because now, and of course, I've been doing this for over 10 years, so um, I have I guess thicker skin, for the nose, because again, it's like you could audition for 100 things in a week and you don't get any of them. Like I mean, you want to, of course, but you just never know. And with TV film, those auditions are, at least for me, and of course, yes, where I'm at plays a role. I'm not getting 10 auditions a week for TV film, but maybe if I was in LA, I would be, or if I was in Atlanta, I would be. Um, but the auditions are few and far between. And so before I got into voiceover, I was always just like, did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it?
Mm.
Just, and so I feel like I've been able to sort of, I just get really excited when an audition comes. I try to have fun with it. I'm about to be 40. I'm just a little bit more comfortable in my skin, and I already know that, my mom always said, you already have the no, go get the yes. That was, my mom has lots of little pearls, but that was one of them that, I'm always like, if you don't try, like you already aren't doing it. So any opportunity is an opportunity to try and get the yes. So and voiceover has brought me this just to tap into the creative side that, again, when I got into TV film, I was hoping to do that all the time. They were going to hire me. I was going to be a series regular. It was going to be great. And so now every day I get to look at new scripts and bring them to life.
I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot, like you said, a lot of it has to do with the creative aspect of it. I think most everybody has a creative side to them. I think we're all creative beings. It's just a matter of how we tap into that. And I've done some on-camera stuff. I do have an agent that is regional, but I found, and I don't know if you found this, that the the it's I don't know how to say this properly because I don't want it to come out the wrong way. But so doing on-camera work. So I've done some commercial work, on-camera work, not to the level that you have been doing it, but just more regional stuff where I've done some regional commercials and things, which requires me to travel.
Hmm.
Um, Doing the voiceover mm, is um, is so comfortable because we get to get up in the morning, go downstairs, open the door, close the door, go to work.
Yep.
Getting up and going to a set and doing through makeup and going through your script and
Mhm.
getting the is a lot of work. And I find myself, and this is part of me kind of, uh, criticizing myself, is that I find myself falling back on the voiceover because fortunately, knock on wood, I'm busy with voiceover work that the pursuing the acting ends up becoming secondary, even though it's something that I really do would love to do and would love to do more of. Have you found that balance to be difficult? Oh, I guess because you're multi-dimensional, uh, you get pulled in a lot of different creative directions, So, um, how do you balance that desire to have success in a particular genre or area when you're having success in another area that's kind of pulling you and occupying your time? How do you deal with that balance?
Yeah. Well, from the beginning, I've always said, and I had a girlfriend ask me this recently. She's like, what if you have a session and you end up booking something,
Hmm.
like on TV and you got to travel now and you got to be there for 3 days or 4 days or however. Um, I am still in a mental headspace that if I book an on-camera role for something, I'm not personally interested in doing commercial work anymore. I'm more interested in being in TV or film. So uh, I will drop everything and I will hope that my clients will be okay with that. I
Hmm.
will, again, it's not I haven't really run into this problem yet because although I have, I'm like, you mentioned 3 shows, like those were all over the course of like 3 years. So like,
Right. It
so
wasn't a huge
right. I was like, here I
time
am. That's
crunch.
like 2 or 3 days over the course of a year that I had to travel. So um, obviously that would change if I did end up booking something. I should say when I do end up booking
That's
something.
right. That's right.
But at the same time, a lot of my work right now, I do a lot of IVR. I do a lot of things that I can do. I bring a travel rig and I work from there, or finding a studio nearby. So there are ways now that I know that I can accommodate this career, the voiceover career, for when acting opportunities that involve travel come up. I know what I need to bring so that I can work from a hotel room, from a closet in a hotel room if I need to,
Hmm.
or looking up studios in different areas. But yeah, it's not something that I worry about too hard just because again, I'm not as much as I've booked some great roles, I'm not like crazy busy with that side. I'm
Right.
busy in my voiceover world and it's beautiful and I love it. But for TV film when that stuff comes, I'm just excited and I try to make it work. And as far as I know, I haven't really had to move too much in that
Yeah.
space like that. Yeah.
Yeah. PJ Oakland, who I'm sure you know PJ, he's out in LA. Maybe you don't know PJ, but he's an actor out in LA and he's also a prolific audiobook narrator. And he was a guest. And I remember him saying that the thing he loved about audiobooks is that it allows him to work every day if he
Yep.
wants to. He goes, and then he has a relationship with most of the producers and the publishers that he works with that when he gets booked on something, so he will get booked for a minor role in a series, right? A TV series where he's on for 3 or 4 episodes. Maybe he'll book something even bigger than that. So
Right.
whatever it is that he books, he will notify the publishers and producers and say, "Hey, look, I'm going to be kind of off the grid there for the next 3 months." And they're okay. Let me know when you're back. And when he's
Right.
back, he's like, "Okay, I'm back." Okay, they start sending him books because he's built up his career in the audiobook world that he's developed relationships with publishers and producers. So he has that safety net of knowing
Yep.
that they're not going to walk away from him when he comes back and go, well, PJ wasn't available for 3 months, so
Right.
we moved on. So there, when you're newer in the audiobook world, that's a little more tricky to balance that. But he's able to do that, and he does, essentially what you were saying. Whereas you kind of make it work again, and
Yeah.
you figure out how to do it. As Maria Forleo says,
Yeah.
everything's
Well,
figure outable.
yeah, and it's true. I just watched a video on this today. Anyways, how just like things aren't that hard. You just have to sometimes figure them out. But that made me think about also how quick, and this is one of the reasons when I was saying, I was like, I wanted to keep that block of time when I first got into voice, when I was like, I'm going to go with this as a business.
Hmm.
Um, Keeping a block of time that's like specific for voiceover. Because and this is, I think, it plays into sort of if you need travel, because voiceover is very quick. Like for commercials, for the telephones, it's like, hey, here's this. Can I have it back tomorrow morning? Or like you book a job and they want to work with you like tomorrow or the next day. Like it is.
Hmm.
I can't tell you how many weeks I come to my office on a Monday and I'm like, there is nothing on the calendar. But if I'm not doing an audiobook, if I'm working on an audiobook, then I love that I have something to do every day.
Yep.
But I come in and I don't have anything on the calendar, but then come Monday afternoon, it's like, okay, now Tuesday and Wednesday are kind of booked. And then, so because of that, the sort of the craziness and the fast pace that voiceover work and booking is and can be, it does offer a little bit of that flexibility to where if I know I've got costume and then I'm working and then I'm traveling Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then I just know that I just tell clients, oh, I'm not available these days. Because a lot of times everything, it just happens so
It
fast.
does.
There are weeks where there's nothing going on and then all of a sudden everything's going on. So,
Right. And
so
then you
yeah,
love it when you have an audiobook that you're working on and you're getting these
I
commercials
love,
gigs coming in.
yeah, sign
And so
me
now all
up.
of a sudden you're like, okay, now I've got to kind of reframe my day because
Yeah.
again, when you get a commercial that a client comes in with a commercial or telephony or IVR, and they want to say, hey, can we get you? Are you available tomorrow? Can we get this back from? We'll send it over this afternoon. Can we get it back by tomorrow? Then
Yeah.
you got to make adjustments. And again, these are. I don't want listeners to be like, oh, those are really hard problems to have, you two. So, must be rough. But the reality is that it took a long time for us to get to the place where we are to be able to do these things. And so I don't want to minimize the fact or make it sound like we're saying, this is easy. It's not. And the process is the journey is a long one, but to be able to
Yeah.
get to that point where you've developed those relationships with clients and producers so that you're able to do multiple things is what we as voice actors and actors want to aspire to. I mean, that's where we're trying to get,
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, at first I said yes to everything, everything all the time. I remember being in the back of the insurance office, like in my little trying to, like in my earbuds, like trying to do an audition because, like, oh my God, it's due right now, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it sounded awful. I don't know, but like I was like everything, all of it. Yes. What do you need? What do you need?
Ah,
So
I
yeah,
know.
absolutely. I think there you have to, and you mentioned building relationships and communication. Once you do build those relationships, I think having communication, people are like, okay, yeah, you're a person. Like, yes, your kid does get sick sometimes and you have to cancel things because you're dealing with a mess upstairs or whatever. Life happens. And I think that once you start working with people and are a good communicator and, have that trust with your clients, then it's, you're right. We're putting the cart before the horse over here right now.
And I remember when I was running my pharmacy, it was like I'd get auditions coming in and going, oh my gosh. And I remember talking to somebody like, why don't you put a little studio in the back of the pharmacy? And I did contemplate that at one
Yeah.
point of putting in a little recording booth to be able to run in there and do auditions. But so we've both been there. Both been back
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
when you're really just struggling to try to get a foothold in the industry. And so it's real and it's definitely part of the journey. Let's segue over to audiobooks because you've had some really amazing success and had an opportunity to do some really incredible books. And I want to talk about wanted you to share with our listeners where did that start? How did you transition over or start thinking about doing audiobooks? How did that journey unfold for you?
Yeah. So, I was a teacher, as I mentioned, elementary education. That was what I was going to do my whole life. It was either that, be an actor, or a WNBA basketball player. Those were like my three life goals when I was a kid. So
Those are
teaching
pretty
is
cool
what I
goals. I like those.
teaching is what I ended up doing. I did play basketball into my 30s, just not into the WNBA. But but So when I started being interested in voiceover and I was interested in audiobooks, I did not really know how to get into, I went to ACX and I was like, oh gosh, there's so much. And then I was like looking up each. It was just a lot of work for me. I felt really overwhelmed. And so what I did was I took some of my favorite kids' books, which I've gotten copyright claims, so I wouldn't necessarily suggest this, but you're asking me for my journey, so I'm telling you.
Sure. Yep.
But I asked, I narrated, and I wasn't myself at this time. I just narrated some kids' books that I loved, and I had one of them that had like hundreds of thousands of listens, and that's what got the copyright claims. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take all these down. And now that I narrate audiobooks, I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily need those up there. But I was like, let me record myself reading these books so that I can send them to publishers or
Hmm.
just like, get word out there. And then, one of the things when the pandemic hit, um, I mean, I was already kind of doing audiobooks at this time, but one of the things I did was, my kids were home. Well, I had one in college already, but the others were home, and so homeschooling and all the craziness that whole thing was. So I started a YouTube channel called Miss B's Audio Reads, and I would sit and do like a 30-minute lesson. They were like bilingual. I would play music sometimes, teach colors, read books. And so the whole thing was like for moms and dads who need a minute, that was kind of my
Mm.
little tagline. And so playing with that was a creative way for me to kind of do this thing I wanted to do, but I wasn't necessarily getting hired for it. I definitely wasn't getting hired for it. Like Miss B was a labor of love. Um, but uh, but my first audiobook that I got called was with Dreamscape Media, and it was a series of books called Lola Cruz. And um, I do not even know. They found me through my website, um, and uh, and um, because I'm Latina, I do a lot of Latine literature. So books written by Latinos, which is, I take deep pride in that because, gosh, for how long was that literature not being published? And you know what I mean? Like, I'm like,
Hmm.
these are stories that have been around, but like we're just now getting that visibility. So I take deep pride and I get so excited when I'm like, this is a Latina author who's telling this story, or like, I've done a couple of sort of like historical or just like nonfiction books that I just feel like 20 years ago there wasn't this. We have now, people want diverse literature, and
Right.
there's a place, and a Latin person can go to a publisher with a book and it's not like, oh no, it was for a specific few. The stories history has been written from one perspective for a very long time, and so it's really it's an absolute honor to get to help voice some of these stories. And also, because I know that there are some new listeners on this, Learning Ally. Can I say names?
Yes, of course. Yep, absolutely.
So Learning Ally is I worked with Learning Ally when I wanted to get into audiobooks. You volunteer your voice, and they turn your narrations into audiobooks, and also kids can follow along. It goes to kids in schools.
Hmm.
I'm sure you're familiar with
Yep.
Learning Ally.
Hmm.
So that was one way that I practiced, and I got good feedback. And but you, again, it's a volunteer, but if it's a great place it's for a good cause.
Yeah.
You are providing literature to kids who struggle to, whether it's a learning disability or they're just not, they need to pick up, they're in the sixth grade and they're reading into third grade reading level, so being able to so you're a part of the solution and you're getting to work on your craft. So I've done a bunch of books for Learning Ally. It's one of those things where I was like, I need to go back to doing that a little bit. Sometimes you get busy but that's a great place to, if you're interested in audiobooks, you can audition to be on their roster and volunteer your voice.
Yeah, it's a wonderful resource, and I remember doing some reading in the beginning. I did work for Rise, which was is a part of our local PBS station, and they were reading to people that were um, sight impaired, and you would read magazines, newspapers,
Yeah.
So again, that was volunteer work, and that was really early on in my career. And I'm like, I'm going to do this because I'm going to get to go in and practice. And you're serving a really, really good cause for people that otherwise, aren't going to be able to pick up the morning paper or the magazine and be able to read it. Now they can hear you speaking it to them. So those opportunities, I think people should take advantage of, because not only is it really a good cause, but also it's going to help you get experience using your
Mhm.
voice to communicate, which is what it's all about.
And it's a good insight too, like because audiobooks, you're not just sitting there reading. Like you do that, and then you have to send it off and someone's going to be like, look at all these mistakes. And then you got to go pick them up. So you get
Yes.
to learn through that process. Is this for me?
Right. Yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
and I've said this in Sean Pratt. I think it was Sean Pratt who told me, or it was, can't think of the other coach that told me this, but I'm pretty sure it was Sean that said that if you really want to be an audiobook narrator, you could go to the library and just randomly go down any aisle and pick out a book, bring it home, go sit in a closet and read it for 3 hours a day, and do that for 2 weeks. And if you're not pounding your head against the wall, then you might want to be an audiobook narrator,
Right.
because it's not for everybody. I'm sure you have friends, and I have friends in the business that are like, I could never do
No,
long form
not touching
narration.
it. Yeah.
So you have to have the right mindset to
Yeah.
be able to do it. I happen to absolutely love it. It's a big, big part of what I do. But I know people that, for
Yeah.
very good reasons are like, no, I can't. I
Yeah.
just can't do it.
For me, it fills my my desire to tell a story. I was like,
No
it fills
question.
the actor inside of me. Of course I love a commercial. Let's sell you this product, but like to be like, this is Cynthia, and Cynthia's got something she feel, like you to share story is it fills my heart. I do a lot of a lot of fiction, excuse me. So
Yeah, and I do mostly nonfiction,
yeah.
but it's a lot of times it's me being me. But I've heard from people like PJ and Sean. They're like, sometimes it's hard to do. It's hard to do nonfiction well, because you still have to be entertaining and engaging and enlightening, and you have to do it with material that may be somewhat dry. But
Right.
it's your job as the voice actor to make it compelling.
Yep.
And I love it when I do get fiction work, because that really does allow me to be an actor and to
Hmm.
really dive into the character and
Yeah.
and understand where they're coming from. And that is just amazing from a creative perspective. So yeah, I'm jealous of you for having having a lot of fiction to do. I'm very thankful that I get to do a lot of work in the nonfiction world, and occasionally some fiction work. And when I do, I greatly appreciate that as
Yeah.
well, because
Well, and I love the nonfiction for that same reason. I'm like, oh, this is different, and it brings the sort of like e-learning training video side of the
hmm
teacher in me that's like,
sure.
oh, let me, it's a different read, it's a different approach.
Yeah, and let me educate you about
Yeah.
this, because I'm really excited about birds, or I'm about whatever topic this book's about. So you have to bring that author's perspective, because for them, this is their baby. This might be the only book they've ever written or ever will write, and
Yep.
this is everything to them.
And they have
And
spent years on it.
yes, yes, their
Years.
commitment to it. You have to
Yeah,
honor that commitment. I
absolutely.
mean, that's a really important part. And I really try very much, and I think it's true. I'm sure it's true for you. And this is I think a really important thing for aspiring voice actors to understand, is that, to appreciate the art and craft of the work that we do, and also to honor the work that other people have done to bring the work to us. So whether it's a commercial, a telephone script, an e-learning project, a corporate video, an audiobook, somebody's done a lot of work to bring it to the point where they're coming to you saying, I need you to give this voice.
Yeah.
And so that we have to really make sure that we honor that, because we can get into a situation where it's just, well, it's another gig, it's another job. Let me just crank this out. You got to stop, and you got to make sure that you're honoring that script, because somebody put a lot
Absolutely.
of work into it.
Yeah,
So,
and we're often as voice actors, we're the last piece to the puzzle. I mean, they usually have the music picked out before we come in,
right.
So yeah, you're right. There is a lot that has already happened, and you got to be like, you know,
Put the finishing touches on it for
yes.
sure. So let's talk about briefly your other interest among many. You're also a musician and a singer. and a drummer. So where did that passion come from, and how have you been able to incorporate that into your life?
Yeah, I have always been, I used to be in talent shows, dancing, singing. I've just enjoyed music. I grew up in a house where there was, my mom is forever. I mean, there was salsa and merengue on all the time, flamenco, like cooking, like she's to this day, she's got music anytime she's um, cooking or just cleaning or, just at home. So, although, I don't come from like a music, like people didn't play instruments in my family or even perform like singing or anything. It's something I always enjoyed. I didn't really think anything of it ever being anything. When I was in college, I did like an open mic, and actually, I just learned because I asked my buddy. I ended up okay, so my senior year of college, I ended up joining a band, a hip hop band called GFE. That's how I met my husband. He's the guitar player in that band. But my buddy had just become their new bass player. And I just asked him the other day, I was like, I don't feel like I ever sang in front of you. I wasn't performing like that really. Like I'd started playing guitar a little bit in high school, but like just kind of sitting in my room, like messing around. I didn't really play out. And he was like, "Oh, I just heard you singing in the car. Like we were going to a show and you put on this and you were singing." And I was like, dang. And so when the band that he was playing with was looking for, as a hook girl, I came in and did the hooks of the songs after the rappers. They had multiple women kind of on the recordings, and then so I auditioned for the band. Absolutely, kind of hit it off with everybody, and more so within I mean, very quickly, I went the way I met my husband, which he's a big part of the reason that I do music now. Um, After I came to rehearsal, I was doing my student teaching again. I was in college, so I was like just at the very end of my college career and had just started student teaching. And he was like, "Oh, I have this album," and he was trying to get some more female vocals on it, and so I went over and worked with him in the studio, and it was very instant our sort of attraction to each other. So, um, I remember being like, I don't want anybody in the band to know. I was like, I want the band to like want me, in the band. So we totally hit it for like months. Went on tour. Like over the summer, just like tried to keep it friendly for as long as possible. Plus, he had two little boys at the time. I mean, I called them my babies. I have been their mom for, almost 20 years now.
Mm.
And, my Asa was 2 and Cadence was 5. And so they were little. Anyways, so just navigating all that. But we, played music that way. I performed with that band, and Asheville is a very music scene here is great. It wasn't as it was definitely much smaller 20 years ago, but just connecting with it, a lot of different musicians here in town kind of took me to that, and then I started playing drums out of college. I was just taking lessons, but I very quickly became a teacher and a mom pretty much right out of college. And so the time for music was a little, there just wasn't much of it. And I feel like it was during the pandemic, my husband and I kind of our duo, which is called Hype Machine Music. We do looping, drums, vocals, guitar, bass. And that's a lot of fun. And then, yeah, I play in a trio right now with 3 women, which is great. I play cajon in that band, and that's more like we do some covers and some songwriting. It's a little soul songwriter. And yeah, I've had a lot of the community in Asheville is very tight knit with the musicians here. There's a lot of us, and people play with different people, and so I'll sit in with this band and that band, and there's a lot of opportunity to play.
That's wonderful. I
Yeah,
mean, and I've heard that about Asheville. I've got other friends that live in that Asheville area, and it's just such a creative hub of artistic creativity at
yeah.
all levels. So it's a beautiful place to be. Um, I'm just amazed that you're able to do all of these amazing creative things, and also, a mom, a wife. just incredible that you're able to do all these things. And I
Right.
think it's a testament to not only yourself, but also an inspiration to people that are listening that may feel like, I can't do this or I don't have enough time to do that. I think that if something is important enough to you and you need to feed that creative side of yourself, um, I spend a lot of time in not feeding that creative side of myself. So
Mm-hmm.
now that I do this for a living, I really feel like I want to grab people and say, "Are you happy? Are you really happy with what you're doing? Because you're really, if you're not, you need to think about what it is that really will feed your soul. I think we spend a
Yeah.
lot of time. I've often said that there's like three ways that we see ourselves. There's the person that we think we are, there's the person that other people think we are, and there's the person that we think other people think we are. And
Uh-huh.
a lot of times we spend a lot of time in that third one where we're kind of trying to be the person that we think other people think we are.
Oh, yeah.
And we ought to spend time in that number one was who are you? Who
Yeah.
are you? What feeds you? What fills you up? And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy to pursue that, but if it's worth it, you're going to do what you need to do, and you're living proof of that you've done
Yeah,
that in many aspects.
and I feel like, especially with the music, I was like, for me, it was always because, yeah, as a mom trying to be a musician, like,
Yeah.
especially being married to a musician who's like very well, he's established. So there's a lot of plenty of backseat, like, okay, I'm just gonna hang, or like but all my kids played competitive soccer. I'm like, I can't tell you how many weekends I was by myself on the soccer field,
Hmm.
so there's a lot of, little sacrifices but for me, music was always just for fun. I love, I mean, a lot of things that I've done on the creative side is like, I just want to do this for fun.
Hmm.
Like now, obviously, I wanted to turn voiceover into a business so that you kind of got to shift your perspective. But if you can bring fun into at least a large chunk of what you're doing, then it's going to be awesome. And so, music, I've been grateful that I've been able to do it for fun. And then, it's great when we get to also make some money. But for me, and I have a lot of friends who do it professionally. That's their job. And I respect them, and I'm just grateful when I get invited to do anything, really. I'm like, sweet, I'll be there. That sounds great.
Well,
So,
and as a very very amateur drummer, I admire the fact that you learned how to play the drums
yes.
because holy smokes, that it's not easy. That's not
Oh, I
easy
love
to
it
do it
so
and do it
much.
well.
But it's not. Yeah. I mean, I've been playing for a long time, but like pockets, again, it was like probably 10 years where I probably played like, I don't know. And we've always had a drum kit, but and so now I'm like, during the pandemic, I got an electronic kit because everybody was
Mm,
home, and I was
yep,
like, I'm never gonna play. Now everybody's home. So that was like a game changer for me. I was like, I can just go put in my headphones,
sure.
mind my own business. And anyways, so yeah, I'm great. That instrument has taught me a lot, and I love it.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So much fun to just go bang on those drums, put the headphones on, put
Yeah.
put a music on, and just bang away. I love it. Love it. It's just such a release. Um, and I remember I was trying to learn all these different beats. I know this is off topic, but we're trying to learn all these beats. And a friend of mine who's older, who's has been a drummer for a long time, he said, just just enough. He goes, just put on some music that you like and play. Just
Uh-huh.
play. Your brain will figure it out.
Yep.
And when I stopped trying to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, when I stopped doing that and just played, it just released something. It was so relaxing and so releasing in my brain. So now I try to do that on a regular basis where I'm not worrying about, am I doing the beats exactly the way the
Yeah.
drummer is doing them? I'm just playing along because
Yeah.
who cares? I'm the only one that's listening to
Right,
it.
exactly.
Just
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah,
it.
you got to have that balance between like, okay, I'm gonna practice my paradiddles,
Right.
and or like I'm just gonna go play, I have my three bands and I'm like I love to put them on and listen to this like and just let loose and like who
Yeah,
cares? So,
exactly. Exactly. Um, so before we wrap up, I have to ask you the all important question.
yes.
Um, if you were sitting down with an aspiring voice actor and you had to give them one single piece of advice, what do you think that might be?
All right, that was a hard one. So I'm gonna think of this as like the longevity, and like it was like if they're gonna be a voice actor, but they're gonna keep doing it,
Hmm.
is to bring yourself, your experiences, your strengths, your perspective, into the booth at every opportunity. And this is for TV, film as well. Like clients don't always know what they want until they hear it. But if you bring yourself into the read every time, that's going to stand out. Like, you're the only person in the whole world that has lived your life the way you've lived it. And so you have, yeah, your uniqueness is your ticket. And I think that works for if you're going to direct market. Like, I love talking about cars. Like, I know a lot about cars. Then that should be where maybe you want to focus your energy. Like, automotives, or like, I just think that we all have certain strengths, and just don't try to be something that you're not. I think that would be just do you, boo.
Love it. Dave Walsh, who was a commercial coach I worked with, said you have to bring your own authenticity, which is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And one of the favorite things he loves to say is your voice will rat you out every time.
Ooh, yeah.
That's what producers are listening for. They listen to thousands and thousands of auditions, and they're going to hit that button really quick if they don't hear authenticity. But when they hear it, they're like, "Oh, save that one." Bang, bang, bang. No, 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 no. Oh, save that one. Because you've got to bring yourself, It's like you go to iSpot.tv and you listen to these commercials that people are doing it at the highest level, and you can go practice and you can listen. But, you listen to John Hamm do a Mercedes commercial. You don't want to go sound like John Hamm. You want to sound like yourself, bringing yourself to it. You can learn from listening to people that are doing it at a high level. You can learn the cadence and the way that they're inflecting, but it still has to be you at the end of the day, because that's what they want. They want you. That's what they want. So I love that piece of advice.
Yeah, and to promote yourself, also using that, like, this is, I'm like, I book a lot of stuff that has to do with insurance because I sold insurance, and I actually love talking about it. So that'll come through. Things that naturally you enjoy talking about is going to come through the microphone for sure.
I have several clients who I do medical narration for, and as much as I, was in pharmacy for 30 years, as much as when I got into VO, I didn't want to have anything to do with medical terminology.
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
can
well,
have that. I don't want that.
Yeah, I'm like, well, Mike, you are able to do medical terminology pretty well. So I have told people before, yeah, whatever industry you're coming from, think about it, and where can you apply that to your voiceover field, because you have that expertise that you bring to it, and that's valuable. So.
And as you know, like, there's so many genres in voiceover, and so there's, that's a great place to start, is like a niche that I can do medical narration. I don't want to touch medical narration. Like, if I have to look up more than 3 words, thank you.
You're out.
This is for someone else.
Good to know that too. It's good to know what we don't want to do as much as we know what we want to do. All right, Marisa, before we wrap up today, where can people find you?
Yes. So, voiceover TV stuff, marisablake.com, 1R, 1S. That's just my first name, my last name. I do a decent job of keeping that updated. And then if you want to hear any of the music, both of the groups that I perform with regularly are on Instagram only. So one is Hype Machine Music and the other one is Free Champagne Music. And that's it. Oh, and you can find me, myself and I, at Marisa Blake Acts on Instagram. And I think I'm the same everywhere, Instagram, Facebook. I kind of TikTok, every couple months I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm on Instagram.
That's awesome. I'm gonna go check out those bands too, because I want to hear them.
Yeah,
music.
Yeah. We have kind of minimal, but that's what we've at least posted a few little things on there to just, yeah. We all just want to make music. We don't necessarily want to also be social media influencers.
No, I hear you. That's a whole nother job in and of itself. Exactly. Well, listen, thank you so much, Marisa, for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey with my listeners. And I wish you continued success in your amazing journey.
Thank you so much for having me. It is, to me, being on your podcast is like such a full circle moment, of just wow, this is where I came for inspiration, years ago. And now I'm like, huh, look at me now.
Now you get to be inspiration to other people, which is wonderful.
I made it.
You made it.
You can't too.
Well, amazing inspiration that you provided. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. Head on over to MikeLenzVOPodcast.com for links and recaps of each show. Catch you next time on the Mike Lenz VO Podcast.